Hi, I'm Shannon from Chip Theory Games, and today I'm going to be introducing you to the Narora faction from Cloudspire. The Narora believe that controlling the source is their calling. Even before the islands collided and war ensued, the other factions were wary of their fanatical ways. The Narora worship the source, wishing to become one with it. Their attempts to do so has led to their appearance as mildly unstable lifeforms with a glow matching the source energy. The Narora are one of the most unique factions in the game. They have the most variety in units and spires, and that gives them a very wide variety of unique talents that makes it really hard to plan against. In addition, they can gain a lot of source throughout the game, but they also grant a lot of source when they're defeated. Let's start out by looking at the Naroran heroes. Anvasse is their starting hero with a CP cost of 0, and on its basic side it has 3 health, 1 attack, 2 movement, an upgrade capacity of 2, and a source reward of 3. Its terrain is forest, so it can move on forests, plains, and path, and it has the talent Matter Distortion. Before or after Anvasse moves, you can take the top Earthscape from the market and place it so that at least one of its hexes covers a hex on the isle Anvasse is on. You have to follow all standard rules of placing an Earthscape, except you don't have to have influence over it. You also do not get to immediately construct a spire on its source well. Once Anvasse has used his talent, he will flip over to his promoted side, losing any upgrades he has. On its promoted side, its movement increases to 3, and its upgrade capacity goes down to 1. Defeating factions get 4 source reward. Instead of Matter Distortion, it has Flying, so only spires with air defense and only units with the talent's range or flying can attack it. Its terrain is water, so it can move on any terrain. Note that if Anvasse attacks a unit, it does still retaliate. As a flying unit, Anvasse is not able to block movement. If he would block a unit from making progress, he must trade hexes with it and allow it to pass through. This applies for both friendly and opposing units. The last note on flying is it doesn't allow Anvasse to move through other units, spires, or other chips on the board. The Narora's second hero is Anjebin, with a CP cost of 3. On its basic side, it has 4 health, 0 attack, 2 movement, an upgrade capacity of 2, and a source reward of 3. Its terrain is mountain, so it can move on any terrain except water, and it has the talent Source Aura. After moving, Source Aura allows Anjebin to deal 1 damage to all opposing units and opposing spires. This does not take the place of an attack, though Anjebin needs to gain at least 1 attack upgrade before it has the ability to make an attack, since its attack stat is 0. On its promoted side, Anjebin's health increases from 4 to 5, and its source reward goes from 3 to 4. It also gains the talent Self-Destruct. Before or after moving, Self-Destruct allows Anjebin to defeat itself in order to deal 2 damage, plus an additional 2 damage per upgrade on Anjebin, to all adjacent opposing units and spires. In this case, Anjebin has 2 upgrades, so would deal 6 damage to the Forsaken and 6 damage to the spire, remembering that no matter the amount of damage on a spire, it still loses only 1 upgrade. I'll also note that the Narora don't get the source for the defeat of Anjebin since it's their own unit. The Narora's third hero is Bydra. It costs 8 CP to select, making it the highest cost unit in the game. On its basic side, it has 6 health, 2 attack, 2 movement, an upgrade capacity of 2, and a source reward of 4. Its terrain is water, so it can move on any terrain, and it has the talent Calm Minion. Once per wave, before or after Bydra moves, you can spend 2 source to teleport any ungrouped friendly minion to a hex adjacent to Bydra. There has to be an adjacent hex that's valid for the minion, meaning it matches its terrain allowance and leads to its mark. Once it's promoted, it has a lower upgrade capacity of 1 and an increased source reward of 5. It also gains the talent 2 range, meaning it can now attack and retaliate from up to 2 hexes away, and can also attack units with the talent Flying. Now let's talk about the Narora's minions. The Narora minions are unique in that they can't be promoted. Instead, each minion chip has 2 different units on each side, giving them twice as many options. I'll also note that all of the Naroran minions can only move on path. The first Naroran minion I will talk about is the Burnout. The Narora have 3 of them, and they cost 2 CP to select. They have 3 health, 1 attack, 2 movement, and grant 3 source on a defeat. Burnouts have the talent Entropy. If the Burnout's health is reduced to exactly 1, if for example it attacks this Battleborn and gets retaliated against, it will detonate immediately, defeating itself and dealing 2 damage to all adjacent non-Naroran units. In this case, 2 damage to the Battleborn and 2 damage to the Nomad even if it's controlled by the Naroran units. It doesn't damage Spires. On the flip side of the Burnout is the Drift, which also costs 2 CP to select. It has 3 health, 1 attack, 3 movement, and grants 2 source when defeated. Drifts have the talent Incorporeal. Incorporeal means that the Drift can only be attacked by adjacent units and adjacent Spires, so this dispatch could not attack it. In addition, during their movement, they can pass through hexes occupied by other units, though they can't finish their movement on an occupied hex. The Naroran faction steals 1 source from the faction of each unit the Drift passes through, in this case collecting 2 source from the Brahmin. The next Naroran minion is the Arclight. Narora have 2 of them, and they cost 3 CP to select. They have 2 health, 2 attack, 2 movement, and grant 3 source when defeated. Arclights have the talent Sourcefield. When the Arclight is attacked, it can use its Sourcefield in order to spend an amount of source equal to the damage dealt in order to negate all of the damage. So the attack stat here is 4. The Narora could spend 4 source to not take that damage, and it still gets to retaliate and deal 2 damage back. On the other side of the Arclight is the Arcbright, which also costs 3 CP to select. They have 3 health, 1 attack, 2 movement, 2 source reward for defeating it, and Arcbrights have the talent 3 range, which is a lot of range for such a low cost unit. As I mentioned earlier, 3 range allows Arcbrights to attack and retaliate from up to 3 hexes away, and gives them the ability to attack units with the talent flying. Mediums are the next Naroran minions. There are 2 of them, and they cost 3 CP to select. Mediums have 4 health, 1 attack, 3 movement, and grant 2 source when defeated. Mediums have the talent Possess. Before or after the medium's movement, it can convert an adjacent ungrouped opposing faction minion. To do so, you'll place the medium underneath the converted unit. The Naroran faction now controls this unit as their own. If the medium used this ability before moving, the converted unit would now get to move. When this unit's damaged, such as by this Battleborn, the damage is removed from the medium. And when all of its health is removed, the medium's defeated, and the opponent regains control of its minion. Opposite the medium is the Conduit, which costs 4 CP to select. It has 3 health, 2 attack, 2 movement, grants 3 source when defeated, and Conduits have the talent Stasis. Before or after the Conduit's movement, you can place it on top of an adjacent ungrouped opposing faction minion. That minion is now inactive, and any damage dealt to the Conduit is removed from the minion under it. The Conduit must move off of the minion the next time it's able, although right now it is blocked by the Battleborn, so it will move off the next turn it's able to do so. The Conduit can't use Stasis again the same turn it's moving off the unit, so it can't move from this unit to the Battleborn. Next up are the Evangelist Minions. The Narora have 2 of them, and they cost 5 CP to select. They have 4 health, 2 attack, 2 movement, and grant 4 source when defeated. Evangelists have the talent 2 range, which we've already discussed, and they also have the talent Assimilate. Assimilate lets the Narora gain the source reward for all units defeated within 2 hexes of the Evangelist, instead of the defeating faction receiving that award. So if the dispatch were to defeat this Arcbright or this Traxar, the Narora would get the source reward for that. And the reward is gained by the Narora regardless of how the unit is defeated. On the other side of the Evangelist is the Bishop, which also costs 5 CP to select. They have 4 health, 2 attack, 2 movement, and grant 4 source when defeated. Bishops have the talent 3 range. The next Naroran minion is the Lightrous. Narora also have 2 of them, and they cost 6 CP to select. They have 6 health, 2 attack, 2 movement, and grant 4 source when defeated. Lightrous minions have the talent Channel, which means that the Naroran faction gains 2 source each time the Lightrous is attacked. Note that this applies to attacks only, not retaliations or other sources of damage. Opposite the Lightrous is the Nightrous, which also costs 6 CP to select. They have 4 health, 3 attack, 3 movement, and grant 4 source when defeated. Nightrous minions have the talent Incorporeal, which we've already discussed. The next Naroran minion is the Messiah. The Narora only have one of these, and it costs 6 CP to select. It has 5 health, 3 attack, 2 movement, and grants a source reward of 4. The Messiah has 2 talents. The first is healing, which allows it to recover 1 health at the start of each of your turns. The second talent the Messiah has is Immolate. This means that if it's defeated by a faction unit or spire, it steals source from the defeating faction equal to its own source reward instead of it being rewarded to that faction. If the Messiah ends its movement adjacent to an opposing fortress gate, it explodes at the end of its movement, defeating itself and dealing its current health and damage to all opposing units, spires, and the fortress gate itself. In this case with 2 health, dealing 2 damage to Osh, 2 damage to the spire, removing 1 upgrade, and then 2 damage to the fortress gate. On the other side of the Messiah is the last Naroran Minion, the Void, and it costs 7 CP to select. It has 5 health, 4 attack, 3 movement, and grants 6 source when defeated. The Void has the talent Quantum Dark. Before or after its movement, the Void can defeat itself in order to convert an adjacent opposing spire that has 2 or fewer upgrades into a Naroran Spire. To do so, you'll simply replace the top chip with any of the available Naroran Spires and keep the existing upgrades. Now let's turn our attention to the spires available to the Naroran faction. Similar to their minions, the Narora don't have any advanced spires. Instead, they have 4 basic spires, and they are all available from the start of the game. The Narora's least expensive spire option is the Aspect. It costs 2 source to construct and grants 3 source when defeated. It starts with just 1 attack upgrade and has an upgrade capacity of 2. It doesn't have any talents. On the opposite side of the Aspect is the Refractor. It costs 4 source to construct and grants 4 source when it's defeated. It starts with 2 attack and 1 range upgrade, and an upgrade capacity of 2. It has the talent Connected, which means that its upgrade capacity is increased by 1 for each other spire in play that also has the Connected talent. So if there were 3 spires with Connected in play, for example, each would have an upgrade capacity of 4 instead of the 2 shown. The maximum upgrade capacity they can have is 5, no matter how many connected spires are in play. The Narora's third spire option is the Portal. It costs 3 source to construct, and it grants 3 source when defeated. It starts with 2 fortification upgrades and has no upgrade capacity. It has the talent Naroran Rift. Naroran Rifts work in conjunction with the Gateport landmarks. It allows Naroran units to move onto it and be instantly transported to another chip with either the Naroran Rift talent or the Rift Walk talent. Units can also use Gateports to teleport back to portals. The portal counts as a path hex for Naroran units, and minions may use this talent if doing so allows them to end their movement closer to their mark. If a unit ends its movement on top of a portal, the portal is still an active spire, and if another unit would teleport to an occupied portal, then the unit occupying it would be defeated, so this Arcbright would not want to teleport to this portal. Opposite the portal is the Monolant Spire. It costs 4 source to construct and grants 4 source upon defeat. It starts with 2 attack and 1 fortification upgrade, and it has an upgrade capacity of 2. It has the talent Connected, which we've already discussed, and it also has the talent Air Defense. Only spires with air defense are able to attack units with the talent Flying. Now let's take a look at the Narora faction's fortress advancement options. The first fortress advancement we're going to talk about is the Fanatic Tower, and this lets you set a value to your FT range. Your FT range doesn't do anything on its own, but it's utilized by a lot of the other fortress advancements. FT range is always calculated from your fortress gate unless otherwise specified, and if you don't have this advancement, then your FT range is considered 0. Level 1 is the Observatory, costing 3 source, and lets you gain this Fanatic die, with sides counting from 3 to 8. When you gain it, you'll immediately roll it and lock it back into your fortress. Its faces will represent your FT range. At level 1, the highest value you can have is 5, so if you roll above a 5, you'll need to set it down to a 5. Level 2 is Dominance, which costs 3 source, and when you purchase that, you immediately get to re-roll your Fanatic die again. You're hoping to increase its value, but at level 2, the highest value you can have is a 7, so if you roll an 8, you'll need to set it back down to a 7. And if you roll under what you previously had, then you'll just reset it to that previous value. Level 3 is the Overreach at 4 source, and this gives you one last reroll of your Fanatic die. After you roll it, you're going to increase the side by 1, and that'll be your new FT range. Again, if you have a value lower than what you previously had, you do get to reset it back to that previous value. Once you resolve this advancement, your FT range can no longer change. Next is the Gateport Fortress Advancement structure, and like with all factions, this largely deals with market manipulation. Level 1 is the Portal Amplification. It costs 2 source, and in every following wave, it allows you to take your turn during the market phase before the first player. Level 2 is the Portal Scrambler. It costs 3 source and allows you to gain the Scrambler die, which you'll immediately roll and lock. It has 1 1, 2 2s, 2 3s, and a single 4. Once per wave during the start or end of your turn, during the onslaught phase, you can swap either a chip with the Rift Walk talent or the Naroran Rift talent with an unrevealed landmark, such as this. The distance between the two swapping chips cannot exceed the value of your Scrambler die and your FT range combined. So if the FT range was 5, then the two chips can be no more than 9 hexes apart in order to make that happen. Level 3 is Portal Abduction. It costs 3 source and it gives you 2 different abilities. The first one is that you can now pay 4 source less for any future market purchase. And at the end of every market phase, you can now force an opponent to swap their purchase with yours. The next set of fortress advancements fall under the Forgotten Graves. The Forgotten Graves are another aspect of the Narora that make them unique from the other factions. When Naroran units are defeated, both minions and heroes, they go to the Forgotten Graves instead of being returned to the barracks or removed from the game. When they're in the Forgotten Graves, they can't be selected, but these fortress advancements will let you get those units back so that they can be redeployed. Something I'll point out is that all other factions lose their heroes when they're defeated, so it's unique that the Narora have the ability to get heroes back into the game once they've been defeated. Level 1 is the Naming Stones. It costs 3 source, and each prep phase before selecting your units for deployment, you can spend 2 source to resurrect 1 minion or hero from your graves and return it to your barracks. Level 2 is Enshrinement. It costs 3 source, and allows you each prep phase to resurrect a minion or hero from your graves at no cost. This stacks with the previous advancement, so it's possible to resurrect up to 2 units per wave now. Level 3 is the Source Loop. It costs 4 source, and once you have this advancement, you can resurrect all units in your Forgotten Graves during the prep phase at no cost. The Pavilion Fortress advancements give you strategic ways to convert your resources. Level 1 is the Lumia Delegation. It costs 3 source, and once per wave during the prep phase, it lets you convert 2 source into 1 CP or 4 source into 2 CP. Level 2 is Order of Assimilation. It costs 3 source, and once per wave on your turn during the onslaught phase, you can add any upgrade to a spire that's within FT range of your fortress. In this case, I have an FT range of 5. You can ignore your upgrade capacity, so even though this one was already past its upgrade capacity, it can still take that upgrade. But in order to do so, you have to defeat a Naroran unit that's adjacent to the spire. The next set of fortress advancements are the Power Rings, and these give your units teleporting abilities. Level 1 is the Portal Ring. It costs 3 source, and during the prep phase you can place a selected ungrouped unit on the portal rings instead of on the fortress gate. At the start of your first turn of the onslaught phase, you can teleport this unit to a valid hex within FT range of your fortress gate. So with an FT range of 3, the burnout could start there. Note that this does not count as the unit's movement. Level 2 is the Recall Ring. It costs 3 source, and once per wave at the start or end of your turn during the onslaught phase, you can have one of your heroes within FT range of your fortress immediately return to the fortress. The last fortress advancement structure is the Azure Temple. It gives you a variety of abilities, from protecting your fortress, to getting more source, to dealing with opposing units. Level 1 is the Source Barrier. It costs 3 source, and once per wave you can spend a source to negate up to 2 damage being dealt to your fortress gate. So if this Aegis was attacking for 2, we could spend a source to negate that. Your fortress still gets to retaliate, so the Aegis would still take a damage. Level 2 is the Source Reserves. It costs 6 source, and it increases your source capacity to 30 instead of 20. You can use the other side of your source tracker chip when going above 20 source. Additionally, in the next income phase only, you'll receive 10 additional source. Level 3 is ARC, or Azure Reaction Chamber. It costs 4 source and gets you the ARC die, which can be rolled once per wave during the prep phase. You can use it at the start or end of your turn during the onslaught phase. The die is removed from your fortress once it's been used, though you retain the advancement peg and can regain the die by spending 4 source as a build option. The die has 3 possible outcomes, each of which occur twice on the die. They all use FT range, so in this example, we'll say our FT range is 5. This first side deals 4 damage to a minion within FT range of your fortress gate, so we could do 4 damage to this Forsaken. The second side allows you to return a Naroran Minion within FT range of your fortress gate to your barracks in order to also return an opposing minion with the same or fewer CP to its barracks. So we could remove our bishop to return this architect to its barracks. And the final side allows you to deal 2 damage to every adjacent opposing unit to one of your spires that's within FT range. So we could deal 2 damage to this Forsaken and to Drang. That concludes our overview of the Narora faction. You should now have all the information you need to get started playing this faction. If you have any questions, put them in the comments below. Thanks for watching!